How you doing? I'm Dr. Paul Dyer. Welcome. I'm going to be talking about illusion versus reality. I've been working on some things about how I believe I've done the math, I've done the equations of how AI can be put inside the brain and how it can be used as a filter. Yes, how AI can be used as a filter inside the brain and how it can regulate the emotions and how it can help us not be so hypersensitive to our reactions, right? It doesn't stop us from having emotions. It doesn't stop us from having reactions. It just regulates it into a temperament of equal levels, right? That's one of the things I've been working on. And I also believe that in our brains we have developing black holes, just like in astrophysics. So I think we have these micro explosions that happens that creates these wormholes, that things are happening and transferring into our neurotransmitters. I think that happens. I know we are slacking in our imaging problem, so that's very hard to detect at this time, but I believe that's what's going on. But when it comes to illusions, we have to remember that our brain, 95% of our brain wants to use our subconscious. Our subconsciousness. And the reason why our brain wants to use 95% of our subconsciousness is because it wants to use less protein or less energy. And the reason why our brain wants to use less energy, then it pushes into what you call habit form. This is what the mind wants to do. Our mind wants to push our brain into only using the subconsciousness, which is 95%, into using less energy, which is habit form. Right? That's what is habit form. And the reason why it does this is because it doesn't want to use a lot of energy. So a lot of the times we end up falling back into things we already know. Things that we can control. That's why we end up falling back into things that we are so familiar with. Our mind wants to only use the brain 95% of subconsciousness. That's why when we think, to think means work. That work causes fear. That work causes fear. The fear of the unknown because it has never been there before. That work causes fear for the mind, not for the brain. Not for the brain, but for the mind. Because the mind only wants to use 95% of the subconscious. Less energy, habit form, right? It doesn't want you to think because it's fearful. It doesn't want you to embark on something new. It wants to say, oh, I think I can put that into a habit form. Oh, I remember something that resembles this. It reminds me of this, so I can deal with this. That's why things are illusions and false reality. It's not a true reality. Okay? And that's why it's very difficult for people to move forward into new things in their life. And we have to respect when people have a hard time moving forward, because you can't talk people out of their illusions. You can't convince them if they're having these illusions, because 95% of their life is run by the subconscious of their minds. And it's habit forming. It uses less energy. To think uses more energy. Right? To think uses more energy. I just wanted to keep this very simple, because people wonder why it's very hard for them to move forward into new beginnings, new relationships, new avenues, new things, is because it takes work, and it creates a fear in the mind because of the work, and you have to work in what you call a conscious state. I'm Dr. Paul Dyer. I hope this helps just a little bit. And you have a great evening, morning, afternoon, and be present.